So I've just finished watching Wolfman, and I think this is definitely going to be a movie that will probably split horror fans. I for one stand on the side of this movie having potential within it, but it ultimately falls short and only has the remnants of the power, punch and impact that it wanted to have, which is a real shame. With only a small but strong cast, this movie followed characters Blake, Charlotte and their daughter Ginger as they went to Oregon, where Blake grew up, but 30 years later, following his father being legally pronounced as deceased after he went missing several years ago. With themes of becoming the very thing that you never wanted to and not being able to escape the inevitable, let's dive into this movie and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is a review of Wolfman and the ending explained. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. The ending explained. There are a couple of different ways that you can interpret this movie, but for me, when it came to the ending, I think there was one key takeaway from it, and it connected right back to the beginning. When Blake was younger, he almost feared his father, and he was made to feel that way by his dad. We didn't know what happened to his mother, but we saw that it was just the two of them living with one another, and there was a fear factor which was present. This was something that he never wanted to inflict onto his own child, and why he always said that his job was to protect her, and he didn't want his scars to be the very thing that she adopted. However, with Blake's marriage falling apart, and it seeming like both himself and his wife Charlotte were gonna separate if their marriage continued in the way that it did, and him also snapping at Ginger when in the city, it made him realize that he was acting like his father. He was almost seeing his life slowly drifting into the life that his father had, and him adopting those same characteristics. Pair that with the fact that he ended up in Oregon, the house that he escaped from all of those years ago as soon as he had the chance, and boom. The mirror darks were there between the father and son. Blake became infected by the Wolfman that was hunting them when they were in the removal truck, and he slowly started to lose all humanity and become a version of the wolf creature himself. Even whilst he was transitioning into this state and he was losing all ways of communicating and understanding, he protected his wife and daughter from the Wolfman. But it was only once he killed it that he realized that it was his father, the father that went out one day and never returned, insinuating that he himself was attacked by a Wolfman and ultimately became one. Blake recognized that it was his father due to the Wolfman having the same tattoo as what he did. Blake's worst fear in life was becoming his father and acting like him, and with him adopting the form of the werewolf at the end, just like his own father did. It was symbolic of the fact that no matter how hard Blake tried, and even though he blocked him out of his life when he left home, the scars were deeply embedded within him, and it was almost like the damage was already done. Blake almost viewed his father as this scary figure that he was afraid of when he was younger, so the fact that it was metaphorically envisaged as an evil werewolf, it suited it perfectly. The difference between himself and his own father, though, came at the end, when even though he was overrun by the disease that the Wolfman carried, which transformed him, he was able to take back control and knew not to attack his wife and daughter. This was when they were both in the treehouse at the end. Instead, he looked at them, and with his eyes, his daughter Ginger recognized that he was in pain, and he got them to end things. This was symbolic of him preventing the pain that he experienced from his own father and being passed on to his own family. They put a stop to it because it was his worst nightmare to become his father, and the fact that he'd become the Wolfman was something that was telling of that. He was in physical pain due to the injuries that he endured, and he didn't want to live whilst in the state of being a monster. So to me, that's how I interpreted the film. He spent the entirety of his life doing his best to not become his father and trying to heal the scars that his father inflicted. But this movie's bleak message was that the damage was already done, and he was destined to turn into his father. And by using the medium of the Wolfman, that's how it showed the transformation and similarities between the pair. My review of the movie. Honestly, this movie was pretty bad. It was only 1 hour and 40 minutes long, and it felt like they just wasted all of the runtime that they had. It got off to quite a good start when we saw Blake and his father when they were younger, and that scene in the woods was probably the most tense of the entire movie. The perspective through the scope and the breath of the creature and the cold air behind him were things that encapsulated tension and made me guess and wonder what was on the horizon. However, when it came to the story and character development in the present day, it just didn't really feel like there was any there. I didn't really buy that their marriage was crumbling, which was supposed to be at the center of the movie. I also thought that Charlotte's speech where she told Blake that she loved him was corny, unnecessary, and very poorly timed. We hadn't experienced the deterioration or felt like their marriage was that bad for that moment to have any impact at all. What I'm trying to tell you is that I love you. Well, yeah, It always felt like that. We never saw them argue or say that they didn't love each other, so it just really didn't work for me. I was also a bit confused as to why Blake's father, when he was in the form of the Wolfman, couldn't make it into the house, but Blake did quite easily. You're telling me that this man lived in the house for decades, but didn't know that there was a window up top that he could have got through that didn't have bars in front of it, but he knew to wait outside of a door strategically until it opened and then barge in. But Blake, having only just gone to that house for the first time in decades, knew that there was a window that he could get through. I don't know, things like that bother me slightly. Is the Wolfman intelligent, or is he not? Either make the creature completely devoid of knowing the structure of the house, or don't, because it just felt like a shortcut. In terms of what I liked about the movie, I thought some of the effects, such as the point of view angles from Blake as he was transforming, were really immersive and nice to look at. Hearing him lose his sense of language and also how he viewed the two people that he cared about most showed that there was no returning for the character, and he was fully aware of that. I also thought the car crash scene was executed really well. Up until then, we hadn't truly seen what the Wolfman could do, so seeing how he caused the crash and then feasted upon the passenger showed just how deadly it could be. Plus, seeing them out in the open allowed that vulnerability to come across, and it made me fear for the characters and also myself, because you didn't know if they were going to make it or not, and if there would be a large jump scare. One thing that I did roll my eyes at a little bit was how the characters ran into the middle of the woods during the night to escape. It just felt like a really poor decision for them to make, although I suppose that was what allowed them to survive in the end. One thing that also wasn't that clear was if this wolf was able to be out during the day or not. Blake's old friend mentioned that people don't go out during the night, and then the Wolfman obviously attacked during the night. But it was also around during the day during the beginning, so I don't know, there was just no real weakness to it. So I don't know why there was really an original focus on holding out until the morning and then leaving, because it still would have been able to have got the family and the threat would have been just as high. But I don't know, maybe just the visibility is the issue. In terms of if this movie's worth a watch, honestly, I don't really think it is. It didn't do it for me, and I don't think it's going to do it for a lot of people either. It's a shell of what it could have been, especially with the limited runtime, and I just found myself being a bit bored during it. I was rolling my eyes, shaking my head, and feeling a sense of disappointment. Julia Garner is usually really good, but even in this, the script didn't allow her to shine. I'm never going to say don't watch a film because you should form your own opinion yourself, but I'll probably never watch this movie again. So, there you have it, a review of Wolfman and the ending explained. If you want to see more videos on your favourite movies and TV series being broken down, then click on the card in the top corner, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rated this movie out of 5 stars, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. I rate all of the latest movies that I watch and the ones that I don't even cover on the channel. What did you think of this movie? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.